closed open, do you have the live database, or do you have the?
I have not the live.
Okay, awesome, that's what I need, the 108.
Well, it's 107, I thought that's when they gave us yesterday.
So he told me 108.
I just pulled up what was ever in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull the live database anyway.
Well, now I don't know.
Okay, I'll pull up again.
I can, yes.
Because on the 108, when he ran the long in transit.
Okay, let's go back.
Pull up and show him.
Okay, we're going to get started in just a moment. We're trying to get our ducks in a row here. What should it say?
108 is what he told me.
Just the same thing you said?
Yeah.
Which IP?
He told me to do 108 because that's for my long in transit.
Yeah, the 108 would have been the one from 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time to get started. Start with the introductions. Cassandra's going to get us started here with introductions.
How about if we start in the back row? Introduction.
Sarah Naisland, Galesburg.
We're normal.
Julia Kozak Halligan, also normal. Ann Turnbull, Pewanee.
Roxy Clausen, Morton Public.
Amanda Gray, RSA.
Wendy Adams, good RSA.
Cassandra Stokes, Peoria Public.
And Martha Troxel, RSA.
Do we announce who's online?
Yeah, I think we have.
Okay. Yeah, no, we have some people online. We have Anita Smith from Henderson County. We have Amy Gee from Carthage. We have Ann Reeves from Eureka. We have Courtney Young from Avon. Dawn Smith from Illinois Prairie. We have Marla Turgeon from Spoon River. We have Rebecca Gobenpath from Normal. We have Sarah Arnold from Kewanee. We have Sarah Snyder from, I think she's from Jacksonville. And we have Chantry Miller from Blessing. Teresa Johnson from Fond du Lac. Tina Murphy from Dunlap.
I think we have more online than we do here in person today, but thank you everybody for putting up with us changing the meeting to a different date and a different day of the week than we normally have. So that may have something to do with the fact that we don't have as many people here as we normally have here to start with. So I'll go ahead and get started. I just want to tell you, I'm going to deviate a little bit from the agenda that I have right here, and one of the first things that I did want to talk about is mass migration. So if, I don't know if all of you have come from your libraries, or if you've not been to your library yet, just to let you know that Workflows is up and running now. Roxy did find a problem this morning, which I don't know if anybody had tried to do it yet or not, but there is nothing listed in your pending. So if you go to your pending wizard, it's blank right now. So after she had sent the email this morning, I did go in and say something to Kendall, who went ahead and contacted whoever it is that's helping us with the migration, and they said that is common and everything should be there tomorrow. So if you're going out to look at your pending list, if you're talking about pending list today, Wendy, I don't know if you are or not, but currently they cannot look at their pending list. So everything went fairly smoothly. Workflows coming up a day earlier than we anticipated it coming up, so that was really nice. Wasn't too long this morning till RSA was everything was functional in RSA. So there are still a few things as of this morning. I'm sure there's still a few things that Kendall's working on in the other room that we have to tie up, but overall it looks like it went really smooth. So, and being down just one day, that wasn't too bad, was it? One of the things that I wanted to mention, and I don't even know how many of you noticed this, because I did ask Kim at Washington, and she said she never really noticed this, but we did turn on a new property, I guess is what I want to say, that has to do with your pick list in your on-shelf hold wizard. And this is actually turned on December the 1st. And it does influence all the items that show up on your pick list. And what this new property, that parameter that we turned on actually does is, where the one that we had on before, really we didn't have something we officially marked anywhere, but the way that Hold's been selecting items for your pick list previously appeared to work is Workflow took the things that were most recently, had recent activity on it. So if something had just been put into Workflows, it tended to be picked for a pick list or for a hold, or if something had just come back, you maybe could have gone in and, you know, changed something on a record and it changed the activity. It in the past seemed to do the most recent things. Well, it has now changed, so it is picking things that had the most distant activity on it. So what it does right now, when we changed it is, what it's going to do is it's going to go in and look to see the last time an item has discharged, the last activity date, and then the date created. And what it's going to do is it's going to select the thing that's been on, that's had the least activity date. So if something had, say, been in there when we came over in 2007, but it had just been checked out recently, then it's going to look at something that has been in there a little bit longer. So I don't know if anybody has noticed any changes in either pick list. Whether you've had less items on your pick list than you noticed before. I do notice right after it happened, I went out and looked at some of the smaller libraries who appeared to me that they were having a lot more things on their pick list than they previously did. But like I said, I talked to Kim one time when I was working in Washington. She didn't notice any difference at all. So I don't know if anybody's any difference. So not really. Yeah, nobody called and said, hey, what's going on? You know, why am I having less or having more? So we figured it really wasn't really affecting anybody too much. But part of this also, hopefully, is what's going to happen is if it goes to things that have the least activity, people are going to realize maybe these things are missing from their libraries and that type of stuff. So they would go in and mark things missing and eventually get them out of their database. But, you know, it also, libraries that have things that have more activity on titles and stuff, it should not be selecting them for the pick list. It should be selecting things that have been sitting on the shelf longer. So if for some reason, you know, it ends up being something that maybe is older and it has a few things on it and maybe it's not checked out, and since we went to Cersei in 2007, then it's just going to randomly select one of the two to fill the hole. So like I say, if your items are missing, go ahead and make sure that you mark them missing. Always mark them missing using the Mark Item Missing wizard. Don't go in and use the, go into the cataloging and change the home location. If you do that, then when the item comes back in, somebody has to go back into the cataloging and change the home location back. If you use the Mark Item Missing wizard, then if something is found, then you just take it to the discharge wizard and check it out, and then that missing location goes off of it. So, have any questions about that? No? Okay. I just wanted to kind of give you an update since we did talk about it at our last meeting where we were talking about the renewal from the due date vote. The actual results on the vote was 29 to 29, so we are not changing anything, so everything will remain the same. If at some point libraries decide they would like to talk about this again, it can be done in the future, but right now we're leaving everything the way it was. So. I also wanted to talk a little bit about patron information on receipts. We want to make sure that we are protecting our patrons' privacy. When we create receipts for things such as due dates, in transit, bill receipts. So we are encouraging libraries not to put patrons' names, patrons' telephone numbers, patrons' email addresses on these kinds of receipts. Now, for something like a hold or something, you have to have that kind of information on it. But anything that's can be left in a book that a patron might use as a bookmark or something, because we know patrons do that, or they just leave something, stick it in the book and leave it in there. We don't want that information to be out there for just anybody to see. So we want to encourage everybody. If you've got those on your receipts right now, we want to encourage everybody to remove that information off there. So if you don't know how to go in and edit your receipts, there are out on the RSA website. If you go into proposed documentation and training, and you go up to into setup and configuration, there is in this bottom section receipt configuration for all the different types of receipts that we have in workflow. So you could go in there and it gives you step by step how to go in and either set them up, or you can use that same information to go in and edit it and remove patron information off the different receipts. So, any questions about that? James, it's time for James to talk. Thank you, Erica. Trying to come in and give you a little information about in bulk, which he did for Galesburg Library, which Sarah could maybe speak about a little bit. So if you want to,
Yes,
you want to sit down, or
I can just take that. So, yes, I want to say it was Galesburg around September of last year. Each of you could do this different, but they wanted to forgive their fines, their bills to all their patrons to try to evidently encourage them to come back in. But it was only for their patrons only, and that they billed. So if Peoria billed, it's not going to wipe it out. So if you do have, if you want to forgive something, I want to say theirs was, what was it, like under $100?
I think we just did all late, it was just a late.
Yeah, it was just, yes, it was late fees and everything like that. But I want to say it was anything under $100, I think. And that number could be changed. Maybe it wasn't under 100, maybe it was just anything.
They were just all late.
Right. But if they wanted to, if you wanted to be, say, under 50, from 0 to 50, or whatever you want, if you want to just forgive everything, we can do that. Galesburg, I think we ended up putting it down for promotion. So that way it does show that it was paid by promotion. If there, and I talked to Kendall before, if for some reason you don't want promotion because you use that for something else, we can create a new one for you. It's just a bill reason is all it is, so, for the payment, so we could do that. So if anybody is interested, give me enough time though, please, just because I have to write up a whole script and everything. And we even send a list of exactly, I don't remember what the dollar amount was. It was very high. It was very, very high, and we matched it up. I want to say it could have been like 80,000 different ones. You know, some of them were, 10 cents. One patron could have had easily 50 of them just by themselves. So, any questions at all about that? So, if anybody is interested in that, we can do that in bulk, because it would be a pain to forgive everything every time somebody came in. And they didn't want it because if somebody didn't come in, they just wanted to go ahead and do it. So we wiped them out, and so that is possible. We could do that. We could batch do that for you. And like I said, if you do, send a ticket, and we'll let you know. We'll send you reports exactly of, I know Doug, I think it was, sent you stuff to say, hey, it's going to wipe out 27,000 or 80,000, whatever, and the dollar amount we'll put on there too. Exactly, that way you can let your board and everything know. So,
could they do it? I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Could they do it just by like patron type too? So saying you just wanted to do that just for your juvenile, could you do it that way?
Yeah, I could add that into it. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. like I said, if you ever have any questions, just submit a ticket, and we can go from there. Thank you.
Okay. Now Amanda's going to tell her the book.
Take one and pass them on to the guide, how to do it.
Which place? Yep.
Okay, I'm going to talk some about just how to do book club holds. I've gotten some calls lately, a lot from school libraries, but I know public libraries also place these. And so I just sort of wanted to go through the steps on how to do it and kind of where to find information about it on the RSA website. So first I'll show you where you can find it. So if you're on the RSA homepage, go down to Workflows, Documentation and Training, Circulation, and then Holds. If you scroll down, we have two documents here. I handed out the Placing Book Club Classroom Research Holds Guide. There is also a cheat sheet that includes all those instructions without any screenshots. Both are really useful if you kind of forget how to do that. I know, sometimes if you haven't done them for a while and then you need to place one, it's like, oh, what do I need to do? It's a little bit different than placing a regular hold. So those are where that's located. And then I'm going to go ahead and open up the live database for workflows. Logged in. Logged in here soon. Alright, so when you place book club holds, then there's a holds drop down, and let's see.
You're in the wrong circulation module.
There we go, that would help. Place research hold, that's what you would want to first look up to start this process. So we recommend first finding your user information. So the first little helper, you'd want to click on that. And I'm going to look for the book club account that I created today. Okay, so that I automatically pulled up my information. For copies needed, you would want to choose about what you would need. So we're going to say we're just going to do 5, so you don't have to do too many. You want to do your expiration date, so probably the last possible day you'd want to receive books, even if your book club has maybe already started reading it. So I'm going to set that for the end of February. A lot of times it's nice to do this early so you can get your copies in. And we're going to change the level to copy, and then click OK. And I kept the pickup location as here, since if I'm placing book club holds for RSA, I'd want it to be here, but you would want to change that to your library to make sure they end up in the right place. And so then we're going to go to this last helper. It's the magnifying glass with the book. And it's going to pull up this box, and you can then search for your title. So I like to always start with a title search. But if you find out you're having a hard time looking up by title, you can also change it to author, which I think is probably the next best way to find stuff when you're looking up stuff for a book club. And then you want to keep the library at all, because if you're going to need multiple copies, you'll need to see all the copies we have in the system. So we just want to do a search. And so the book that I'm looking for is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. It's what I'm going to look at placing holds for. And so first title record in the system, you can see that Morton has a couple copies, and so looks like that new one is on their new bookshelf. And so I don't know if Morton lends out their new books, and Roxy says yes. So I'm going to click is add item to list here, but then you also need to click add it to list again to be able to place a hold on it. But we're not done yet, so we'll need to do that several more times to get enough copies in the system to fulfill our stuff. So I'm going to keep scrolling through this list, and obviously that one's checked out, so I'm not going to place a hold on it. But this one for Peoria Main Street, I'm going to pick that one and add that to the list. And so I will just kind of continue to do that. If you find that you're doing this for stuff, it's best if you're a public library to borrow stuff from other public libraries, or if you're from a school library, to get stuff from other school libraries. Sometimes the different library types don't lend to each other as much as, like, you know, publics almost always lend to publics or schools to schools. And so you might find a block there. And then also, if you see a listing for an item that belongs to a union list library, you only have a handful of those left, don't place holds on them. They're never going to see it. So we'll just scroll through here and do a couple more. So it's another Peoria item, and we'll just add that to the list. And see, I'll go to the second record here and go up to the top and see, okay, so looks like Galesburg is checked out, Havanas is checked out. See, a lot of these are checked out ones in transit. We'll do like a large print one. And that's the list. And so say now you've populated this, and so if you need 5 copies, we always recommend adding more than 5 copies to the list. So I would say add even up to 10 copies, because sometimes you'll place holds on items and it'll be something that a library doesn't lend. And so once you've kind of filled this with more than enough to fulfill your hold, you'll click place blanket hold, and see, now we found out that this one is not, so we don't want you to override it if you can't place hold, so we do not place hold. And see, now it pops up this box that tells me out of the 4 items I selected, only 3 were able to have holds placed on them. And then there, you've completed your book club hold. So that's how you would do it if you were going in and placing hold. Are there any questions about that? Okay. All right. Well, let me know if you have any questions. You know, you can call here. I can walk you through the steps. I can direct you to the documentation. I know it's kind of a very involved process to make sure you complete it right. Alternatively, if you weren't doing so many book clubs like research holds, they'd be a little bit different, but I don't think we have as many of those placed in the system. Also, when you do book club holds and you place them for like your book club user, we have 2 different book club user profiles. We have the normal one that's just book club. That's a recirculating user profile, and if you've ever used one of those, like people use them for display or like internal library use, you can check something out to it and then check it out again, which would mean that you would need to double discharge it when your patron returns it. If you do keep stuff kind of for that, make sure that whenever you get stuff for your book club that you always check it out to your patron. Every time, you don't just keep it checked out to the book club user, you always check out to the patron. If you use the non-recirculating book club user profile, you will need to override and discharge it when you check out to your patron, but workflows will prompt you to do that. So, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
And Wendy is next.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the long in transit and then moving up to the lost transit status. It was something that we had discussed last fall, that we would be moving forward with this. Kendall has had reports running, and he's been posting them on the RSA website. There is a monthly statistics reports page. And if you scroll down, there is long transit cleanup reports. He's got counts, and he also has actual lists of the items that are 45 days or greater in transit. So those will be running every month on the first of the month. They did not get posted somehow in December, did not get posted in January because there was an issue with the reports. So there'll definitely be one February 1. And we are going to start the actual process of moving the items that are 45 days or greater in transit, actually move them to the lost status in March. So you'll get the opportunity to see the reports on February 1, and then again on March 1. So if everyone hopefully is looking at those reports and trying to find those items, I'm just going to pull up the November report here. So you can see the different items that are listed. So like for Atkinson, they've got a number of books that are their books, and it shows where it was transiting from, what library it was transiting from, when it hasn't apparently ever made its way to Atkinson. So if the libraries that own those books can go looking for them, if they don't find them, they can contact the other library that was the part of the transit to see if maybe they have it on their shelf or what might have happened to it. If you're finding books that are supposedly in transit, if you discharge them, then it should take them out of transit. But basically, then anything that does not get found and discharged is going to get moved to the lost transit status. The big reason for doing that is that as long as items are in transit, holds can be placed on the item. Once it's moved to the lost transit status, a hold cannot be placed on it. So we unfortunately, have some items that are transiting for years, and if it's the only item on a particular record and someone places a hold on it, it's a strong possibility that item is probably never coming back. If it's been transiting for that long, it's probably lost, and that person's never going to get that hold fulfilled. So in the test database, Kendall did go ahead and actually run the process, so I can show you an item that has moved to that lost transit status, and you'll get to see how it is going to look once we start moving them. So this item is currently in the lost trans current status. So the current location shows lost trans. If the item is discharged, it will go back to its home location. So in this particular example, we'll go back to J-Fiction. So again, just as simple as just discharging it if you do find the item. So this process doesn't do anything that makes you have to jump through too many hoops or bells and whistles. Just discharge it. It will put it in the correct location. But the one thing that it does do in addition to that is it's putting a staff note on the item when the process is done to move it to the lost trans. So that note will not automatically come off the item. And when you discharge the item, it's not going to give you any kind of warning like you would get if an item was actually gone to lost status because of the it going lost when a patron has it. We'll pop up the little pop-up box and show you that the item has gone to lost. It won't do that with this. So let me copy that. If I go to discharge.
Wrong tab set up there.
Huh?
We don't have the multiple window mode set up on this. You have to close the wizard.
So let me close the wizard.
It's horrible, isn't it?
Yes. So if I discharge that item, well, it's putting it in transit because of how I'm logged in, but it will not pop up any kind of a pop-up box that says this item was, lost in transit, that kind of a thing. So, and it will show the user, so maybe that might get your circulation staff to realize that, hey, this item was lost in transit and needs to go to cataloging to get that note removed. But what we can do is we can run you a report. Web Reporter will run a report if you want to be able to see those items that still have those notes on them. Because now if I pull that one up, it's back in its, it's in transit now, but it would be back in its current location if I was the home library, but it's still got that note on there. So we can run you a report that would show items that are back in their if the current location is the home location rather than the lost trans, but still has that note on there. You can remove the note off the items that were found and back in the home location.
And one thing, if you notice the date, everything on there, it's very long. It says transited because it also includes like the seconds and all that kind of stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So that's a little confusing. So if you just kind of look at the year, it should be the year, the month, and then the date.
Yeah,
And then after that, it's like minutes and
time,
seconds
yeah, so
and stuff like
1640.
that. But unfortunately, there's no punctuation between there to.
But that way you don't lose that information though, that if once the item is moved to that lost trans, you still have, easy access to the information from, where was it going to and from when it went lost. So you can still, know whether you're the item library, of whether you were the one who was thought was sending it or the one that you thought was receiving it. You still have that information where you can still try to track down maybe where the item got lost at. So again, the plan is to start everything rolling and actually moving things in March. The reports will run, and be posted. February 1, we'll run the reports and post them. March 1, they'll be posted. And then what we're looking at is probably the 10th of the month to give you guys, again, some days to maybe take a look and try to find things. The 10th would be when the process would actually run to move them to the lost status. Anybody have any questions?
We get the report in February, and then March 10th, the ones in February will move? Or
No, the ones from March 1, yeah. We're going to run the report still in February 1, but we're not going to move everything at that point. And whether we maybe send out, another email reminding everyone, but yeah, usually it'll run the 1st, and on the 10th, the items will be moved that are still 45 days or greater.
So
They'll
what
get moved.
days to look for the items?
Yeah.
Okay.
If we decide, like after they've been moved to this new location, lost
trans.
then like we run a report by location and then delete them from our catalog if we choose to do that?
Yes, yeah. If you feel like you've looked for them and they're not being found, yeah, they can absolutely be removed. Online.
Oh, yeah, Melody Heck asks, once items move to lost trans, they won't be listed on the pending transits anymore, will they?
No.
Now, I have a question. I always have questions when we start talking about this kind of stuff. Because it is checked out to the lost trans user, right?
Right.
Then if you're going to delete it, you're going to have to discharge it first.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep, it'll still have to be discharged just like any other checkout, whether it was lost by a patron or lost in trans. And then Kendall also plans to run a report of those items that did end up getting moved. So the libraries will have that report too, that you get the one that shows the things that are 45 days or greater and are long in transit, and then once they get moved to that lost trans status, you'll get a report of which ones of your items did get moved to. Other questions?
Okay. Well, we're talking about several new procedures today. Now we're going to start talking about the discharge procedure. So, this is a new procedure, and hopefully some of you have seen the reports already, but what we are doing now is we are automatically clearing out your discard users for you now once a month. Previous to this, we had you call and tell us when you were ready for the discard users to be cleared, but we are going, well, we've already started. We started doing this for you, so you no longer have to notify us if you have items checked out to your discard user. So we have a document. I can't remember, Erica, that was in.
Should be in the training drive, and then I put it in RSA database, maybe.
now, Erica has worked on, trying to put together, where's the training drive at? It's not here. Erica has worked on putting together some of the documents that we previously had dealing with discard user. We had documents on I create a discard user, and documents on how to check things out to the discard user. Yeah, it's there.
Okay, well, let's just shut that. Let's right click. That's the folder. I don't know why you couldn't see. Oh, it's labeled as the U drive on here.
Ah, there we go.
I call it the T drive. I should
Okay.
say that. Okay.
Okay. We do have a document that is being worked on. There's no link to it out on our webpage right now. Putting together some of the documents we had previously, and then some of the information for what is currently being done for clearing the discard user. Hopefully this is going to be completed by users group next Thursday, so it will be a completed document at that time. But like I said, basically this document is talking about how to set up a discard user. And it also talks about a little bit about why you might want to use a discard user as opposed to just going in and just, you know, one by one discarding things out of workflows. And some of the, I think one of the most important thing is that if you are doing things, you know, one by one, workflows does not keep track of those for statistics as being discarded. So if you use a discard user, we are going to be sending you a list of everything that you have in the discard user. You'll account so that you'll know how many things are being discarded. So just talks about that a little bit, about procedures, like I said, for creating a discard user. And a lot of our libraries do have discard users. Does everybody here have a discard user? Oh, I think everybody pretty much here does, yes. So how to discard items. And then a copy of, on the first of each month in your Gmail account, you're going to receive 2 reports that are in Excel. And you want to save these for your statistics if you're keeping track of your statistics. Let Doug know if you'd rather have them in PDF instead of Excel. But it's going to be a count of discards made last month, and then it's going to have items checked out to discard. And here's kind of an example. It's going to be broken down by item type, so you can see item type and cat 2, so you can see adult, juvenile, young adult, and then what actually is being discarded. And then some libraries, and circulation people really don't deal with this too much, but some libraries have gone in and manually added their holdings to OCLC, and if they manually added their holdings to OCLC, they have to manually delete their holdings for OCLC. So there's a report for that, so if the catalogers need to go in and manually delete things from OCLC, it gives them that information. And a little bit of information like that. And then there's a second report that also comes. So unfortunately, at this point, we can't put the 3 reports together, but hopefully sometime in the future that they may get combined into one report or one email that is sent to you right here. But this one is going to list the things. And then between the 2nd and the 5th of each month, RSA runs 2 reports. And the first report goes in and it clears the items out of your discard user. And the second report clears or deletes the items from workflows. So it could be that if you have, say, maybe an item that has a hold on it, what can happen is it can be cleared out from your discard user, but it still will be visible in workflows. So just to let you know that that can happen, because we have had libraries that have gone in and said, you know, why is it gone from my discard user, but it's still visible in workflows? Well, it's still visible in workflows because normally it's because there's a hold on it out there, so you can still see it in workflows. So what's going to happen is, if you do have an item that has a bill on it, the bill will automatically be attached to the user's account. But if something has a hold on it, like I said, the item is going to stay into workflows. And what is going to happen is that it will stay in there. If for some reason there are multiple items attached to that bibliographic record, then what will happen is, when that hold is available, an item is available to satisfy that hold, then the next time that second report is run that clears the things out of the next month, when it clears the items out of workflows, then your item will go ahead and be cleared. But if it happens that, you know, there's only one item and there's a hold on it, and there's no other item to satisfy that hold, what is going to happen is, right now is, you know, from 300 days from the date that hold is placed, that will stay in the database until that hold expires off there. So once the hold expires, the next time that report is run, then that is going to be deleted from workflows. And now we know this is a problem. And we're hoping that we can come up with some kind of a report that we can run, so that internally we call these like zombie holds, because it's a hold out there that's never going to get satisfied. What will eventually happen is it'll eventually expire and it'll go away, and you as the library is not going to know that that hold is out there for your patrons. So we're hoping that we're working on a way to get a report that can be run so that we can send those to the individual libraries and say, hey, you know, your patron has a hold on this, and there's nothing, no other item that can satisfy this hold on that bib record, and then you as a library will either go to OCLC Connection or Share Illinois or something and try to get a copy of that for you. So all kinds of information about that here. Okay, but we also have, and this has kind of been going on for a little while. In this one I do have, let me see, handouts. Would you like to hand these out? This is a document that I made up that will be incorporated into this whole big document to start with. But sometimes we run into discard user accounts that have items checked out to them that do not belong to that library. When that happens, those items cannot be deleted because of the way everything is set up. The only thing that can be deleted from your discard user are things owned by your library. So if there's a barcode in there from another library, those actually cannot be deleted and will just remain in your discard user. And for anybody that's online, this document is actually out under RSA board committees and groups, circulation committee. And if you go down, pretty much down here, this is under problem items in discard is what we're talking about right now. So, and this is something that you can even do, you know, like once a month, you know, or maybe right before, toward the end of the month, so that you can see if there's anything checked out in your discard user that does not belong to your library. So I'm just going to go in and randomly find a discard user that we can look at. I kind of picked on Peoria this morning. I guess I'll pick on another Peoria library or branch. And what happens is, after the final report is run during the month, then, I get a report that shows, that shows anything that's still in a, discard user that does not belong to that library. And, the report looks, no, the wrong one. No. The report looks like this. And the thing about this report is there's a lot on here that I don't have to deal with because of the fact that if you've got a discard user and your library has branches, these, like Washington here, their discard user, has things in it from the branch library. So that shows up as not being your library's item. So some of these things are libraries with branches here. But, and this is actually the report from November. We ran it in November. Find somebody here. And I'm going to pick on you, Ann. Okay. And this is one that showed up for Kiwani. So as you can see, it gives you the Kiwani user barcode here. This is their discard user barcode. But the item library code is Greater West Central. So this belonged to one of Greater West Central's branches right here. And it had their item barcode right here. So what happens and what you can do, like I say, on your own is you can come into the discard user, go to the checkouts, and when you get, oh, this is a good one. And when you get to the checkouts, any of these columns down here can be sorted. So what you would need to do is just sort it. So it would be in order, sort the item ID, so it would be in order. And look at the top of the list. As you can see, this one starts with an A219, when actually Peoria starts with A132. So right there, that tells you it's not a Peoria. And you go down to the very bottom of the list because you've sorted these in order. So it may be, you know, a library whose prefix is further along than A132. So when you find something like this, I have found anytime that anybody has run, had their user discard user cleared and there's been problems, there's been a couple of different things that have happened to do this. Sometimes things do get sent to libraries. Somebody, you get something at your library from another library. It comes back. When it's checked back in, somebody at your library notices it's damaged, and it ends up going through your discard process and ends up with your discard book somewhere. So the first suggestion is make sure if there's something like this, if you have discard books somewhere, that you go in and make sure this book is not there with those discard books. If it is with the discard books, then what you're going to need to do is, of course, pull it out. You're going to discharge it so it's on its way transited back to the owning library, and then include a note on what happened. Because sometimes it may be stamped with discard or something like that. So, you know, they need to know when it comes back that, you know, that's what happened with it. And that would clear it out of here to start with. The other thing that happens sometimes is that somebody will discard something, but they will not have the item in their hand. So they go into the record and they think they've discarded theirs when in fact they've discarded somebody else's item. So when I get this report, you know, I do a little investigating, and you really are going to have to do investigating on your side too, you know, if you get to it before I contact you and tell you what's going on. If it's something that never came to your library, and I can run a report and see, sometimes I can almost tell by looking at it, I don't think this probably ever went to this library, so I will run a report and I can see that it never did go to that library. So then I will call the owning library and say, hey, is this on your shelf? And, you know, the majority of the time they go in and they find it on their shelf, and then they discharge it, and then it takes care of the whole thing. If for some reason you know, it has come to your library, you have discharged it, and maybe you have gotten rid of it, then what is going to happen is you are going to have to contact that only library and make some kind of an arrangement to either replace it or pay for it and that type of stuff. I think Cassandra does that every once in a while, though.
And can you do me a favor? I see that second one hasn't been discarded underneath addiction.
What?
Do that belong to someone else?
This one?
The second one, I don't know, 'cause look at the date. They've already went through December. Double click on the item.
Well, I am also, well, but this should have been the one from last week, so that shouldn't. Lincoln. And that is one thing to know, if you you have something in here and you're looking at it and you go, I have no idea who A2190 is right here. Uh-oh. Let's say you don't know and the library's not sitting in the same room as you. Anytime you see anything in the database that has a line underneath it, that's called a glossary, and you can click on that and get more information. So you can click right here, and it tells you the owning library is Galesburg right here and gives you the code right here. So if you don't use the glossary sometimes, anytime that you're in any of these wizards and you see a line under something, you might just want to click it because there's all kinds of information in there you may not even know that is there.
Well, and that looks weird now that you click on that. Back up to Galesburg.
Oh, I thought
No. So why is it saying P Main? Wouldn't that have been the library that charged it to?
Yeah.
The library that charged it to the discount.
Okay, so I might have to have you run a report on that one.
And, yes.
Couldn't it go back the other way too? Like your example with Kiwani, that could have been Greater West's fault. That maybe they searched for the discard user and chose the wrong discard user, and if they did really discard their item, but they chose the wrong discard account.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like I say, this takes a little bit of investigating to kind of figure out what's going on. You think, for some reason that you find something like this and you want us to run a report, just let us know. You can run a report for you and say, you can say, hey, this is in my discard user. I don't think we got this. Can you run us a report, a history on this and see did this ever come to our library? Like I say, it is kind of lots of stuff we do here is investigative, but yes, it can be multiple reasons that it is checked out to the discard user, so it kind of takes a little research to try to figure out for sure what's going on. Now, I have called libraries at times when it has been in there, and they go find it, that it's in their book sale or something like that, that they actually have discards. And once again, if you've done something like that, you just need to make sure that you deal with the owning library to try to clear it up, whatever it is. So, if there's anything else. Like I said, this report comes out, Doug's here, but it comes out right after everything is sent to you, so I get it and look at the last one. I didn't remember that there was anything in there, but I would have thought that one would have been in there, Cassandra, for you. That one right there. So, yeah, I'm not sure why it's still in there. It's been there since July.
I'll find out what's going on here.
So, any questions about how this is working or how this is going to work or anything? No? Okay. Like I say, if you notice some things in your discard user and it is not yours, you can do your own investigating. If you want to start with us running a report, just let us know and we will do that, and we can go from there. If something is in your discard user and this report comes around to me, then I'm going to start doing the investigating, and I will go ahead and contact you with what is going on. Lots of times people don't know. They don't go in and look. Everything gets checked out here, and then we clear it, and then they think everything's fine, but we find quite a few times that there's things in there that, belong to other libraries, so. Okay, just have a question, that was brought up by somebody, and, I just kind of wanted to throw it out to everybody that was here today to get your opinion. And, see, I know we have talked before about, loan periods and items and that type of stuff, because some libraries have extra long loan periods for things such as staff or, homeschoolers or outreach and that type of stuff. And I did have somebody want to know, suggest that we have some kind of a loan period policy. And I'm not saying that we're going to say everybody has to check everything out for the same amount of time, but maybe having a limit to say nothing can be checked out any longer than this many days. So I don't know if anybody thinks we need to have one of this. If we do, then this is something that needs to be started at our subcommittee so that we can talk about it a little bit. Or if anybody is really finding this is that much of a problem anymore. I do know some of the libraries that had some longer ones, it's been discussed with them and they have shortened them so they're not quite so long. So I don't know if people are having problems with this or not. So is anybody really having any problems with their items being checked out for a long period of time? I know my last problem was with the school, and they had checked something out, I think in October, and it wasn't due back until April. And so we had, somebody saying, hey, my item, and it was kind of a newer item, and, and I did discuss it with the school, and they agreed to shorten their loan periods. This was actually a loan period to like a faculty member, so.
I'm going to one tomorrow that has a 365-day checkout for their faculty.
Okay, well, please.
We discussed it.
Please discuss that. We should find someplace tomorrow that has 365-day checkout for their faculty, so hopefully we can get that shortened. But, if anybody is not really feeling like this is a problem I think it's not as much a problem as it used to be, so. Yes, ma'am.
Well, we had kind of hit on this before and maybe just talked about making a policy for just things that were loaned. That they could keep their 365-day policy if it was their item, but if they borrowed from someone else, they needed to modify the due date to a shorter period. Maybe something in regards to that, but not mandating them, libraries, to change their circulation policy for their items.
You just have to have a policy on
Borrowed items.
Borrowed items. Nick's kind of shaking his head. That might not be a bad idea.
Well, it's come up quite a few times before in the past, and part of the problem is that I don't run the report to go check on this. I run into it when someone puts it on, asks for it on hold, and we look to see are they, I think it might be happening more. We just don't necessarily see it as often anymore.
Nick said, can Nick be heard? Can't probably be heard out there. Nick said that he only notices it when it's a book that they place on hold or something, and Eric, you're
She says the problem with limiting that to borrowed items is that the staff checking out might be tempted and they don't, or might be temporary and they don't know how to change the due date.
That is the problem with that, is that something you have to manually do. It's not something that we can set up as, as a rule or anything like that, which is too bad, because that would make it a lot easier if it was something we could be part of a circ rule or something like that. But what is something that maybe we can discuss again in circ policy subcommittee, and we'll have to have a meeting. Let me write that down. Beth, did you have anything else you wanted to say about it?
had a bunch of people talking about it at a couple of meetings. During some set of meetings last year, there was.
Yeah, we did talk about it a little bit about, yeah, but not quite. Saying, you know, nobody can check out, you know, any longer than this many days, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Sarah from Jacksonville says she's noticed it with the outreach accounts occasionally, but if it's a problem, we usually ask the library to recall the item.
Okay.
And then Beth says only that, as Nick says, you don't know who's doing it until you discover when you need something.
Right.
And then Anita Smith from Henderson County says, we run a bookmobile and it travels to the different towns every 2 weeks, so we use the 2-week checkout.
She uses the 2 weeks checkout for a bookmobile?
Uh-huh.
But we'll discuss it again at our next CERC policy subcommittee, so put it down.
Oh, and then Beth also says again, I would like to see something that doesn't allow more than 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, Beth, I put that down so that we can discuss it at our CERC policy subcommittee and maybe come back with some kind of a policy or suggestion, so. Okay. I'm going to skip over the Checkout Wizard property document and come back to that in a few minutes. I'm going to go through everything else and then I'll come back to that last.
One more thing regarding that. She says renewals are fine, but if an item is checked out in a whole place, it doesn't have an opportunity to pop up if it's a month-long one.
Yeah. Okay, anything else before I move on from that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to move too fast. People still had comments. Okay. I'm going to skip the Checkout Wizard Properties section and come back to that last. It's something that I don't think we'll probably get all the way through today, so I'll start at the end, and although I don't have a whole lot more here. And if we need to, we can pick it back up at the next meeting. So I did want to give you a little bit of membership updates. Bushnell Public Library is in the process of entering patrons, and then we will be doing circulation training for them. So I see people with big smiles on their faces because they will no longer be on your union list. Prairie Creek, I am going to be doing patron entry training on January the 30th. So next Tuesday I'll be going there to do patron entry training. And Neponset, I think I do have a date, but I don't have it down here. But Deposit, I will be doing training, patron entry training for them later in February. So we do have Flanagan that is coming up, but they're not anywhere near ready for patron entry training because they're a very new library. So Eric is going to have to be, they're going to have all the catalog, or their items cataloged, and it hasn't had a chance yet to do the cataloging training for them, but that will be coming up here shortly. I have, once again, kind of like I talked about the last time, I have been revising circulation documents out on the RSA webpage. If you don't know where the circulation documents are, they are under workforce documentation and training. Once again, going into circulation. We do have cheat sheets we've got guides, we've got policies, we've got, documents just pertaining to holds, documents just pertaining to ILLs. Some of these have not been updated for quite a while, and the screens have changed in workflows, so things don't even look the same, or they look similar, but they don't look exactly the same way. So I've been updating these so that they are more relevant to what workflows looks like right now, and to also change some of the contact information. I put more of a generic contact information on here, where before some of these documents still had contact people that no longer work at RSA, so we wanted to make sure those were all updated. So anything that's been updated, you're going to know it's updated because we are using a new, like a template to update things. So, and also anything that's been revised is going to say right here at the end of it that it has been revised. So, example right here, it's going to have like the RSA logo and our contact information right across the top. So it will tell you right under the title of the document that it has also been revised here. So to let you know, I've got, I would say, the majority of things done, but I'm still trying to work on getting everything done. So if your staff uses some of these things, you might want to go out and copy off the new ones so that you've got the ones that are most recent. So. Let's see here. SAS, we already talked about SAS a little bit at the very beginning. Just in case you don't know, what we're actually doing is that Cersei Dynamics will now be hosting the RSA servers, so that we will not be doing that anymore. They will be responsible for the maintenance and the backup and the updates for the servers. So that takes a little load off Kendall and James and Doug here, and Cersei Dynamics is doing that. So. We do have an RSA users group meeting coming up next Thursday, so, just to let you know that. We do have, I don't see it here, we do have in March RSA Day coming up. This year it's going to be at Peoria Public downtown, the main branch, so where we had it in the north before. The 27th? That sounds right. Yeah, it is March the 27th, so. You know, talk to your directors about it. Let them know that it is happening. It's already out on L2. The information's out there about it, and a few of the RSA staff are going to participate in it, but mostly it's people out. I know Erica's doing a session. Are you doing something, Wendy? Okay. So it's for all staff. It's not just for directors. It's for all staff of the library. So I know some libraries make it their a staff training day and shut down and come to it. So, and RSA will feed you. So. One of the things that I wanted to show you out on the Rails website, and I don't know if any of you know it's out there, so that's why I wanted to show it to you. So out here on the Rails website, if you go under delivery, if you go into services and you go delivery, there's a section over here called Lost and Found. And this lists things that has ended up in delivery that does not have any kind of identification on what library it goes to. So if for some reason you've got something that's missing, you wonder where it is, you might want to go out here and look and see if any of these things look like something that might be yours.
How long, Martha, do they keep those things?
These are kept here for, it's 6 months. So they're on this list for 6 months. So And I knew it was out there, and then I kind of ran into it again the other day, and I thought, well, I don't know how many other people know this is out here, so I just thought I would. And it's not just all book, I mean, at one time, it's not here any longer, but one time there was like game pieces, that says like, game pieces that went through the delivery and got lost, for a game and that type of stuff, so, just let you know that those are out there, and sometimes when you got time, you just might kind of want to go out there and go through it and see if anything looks familiar to you. So if it does, then you're going to contact Damon or Brock up here. The contact information's up here at the top. So. Coming up, Rails events, that there were a couple of webinars that were coming up that I thought might be of interest to circulation staff. The one on February 7th is dealing with angry customer behavior, and I'm sure nobody has angry customers, right? Then there's one on February the 14th on sexual harassment in the workplace, and one on the 22nd of February called Public Libraries and Healthy Communities. These are all located, once again, out on L2 where you can sign up. I think every one of these are webinars. They're not, in person. You can actually sign up and participate at your library instead of having to come here or go anywhere else. So. Okay. I am going to start. This is talking a little bit about, hand that out, Cassandra, thank you. Property. Yeah, would like to have a mini break first. Let's have about a 10-minute break. And we'll come back.
No.
What was the third Rails event you said?
Public Libraries and Healthy Communities.
What date was it?
The 22nd of February.
She's had a few questions, but I think she's so oriented, so I'm excited about it.
Well, that was a good question. There's nothing wrong with that. No, it's not.
You might want to mute yourself if you're whispering. Martha, you might want to mute it if you guys are whispering.
I was just whispering because my voice carries and I.
Yeah, we know.
We're gonna go ahead and, get back to the meeting. At some point, I kind of thought it might be a good idea for us to go over some of the properties in, Wizard workflows, because there are things that you guys can do, to make workflows work better for you and your staff at your library. And we kind of have a default way that we set it up, and lots of times nobody goes in and even looks to see if there's anything else they can do or change things, and you can if you want to. So we're talking about the Checkout Wizard properties today. So to go in and change any properties, though, you do have to log in with the supervisor login. So whether or not you have that login at your library or not, if you do not have permission to log in as supervisor, then I suggest you not do that without talking to somebody at your library to see if it's okay that you do that. So I do have a document that I put out on the webpage, once again, under the committee, that has this information in it. I, at this point, do not have it under workflows and documentation anywhere, because it is not quite complete. So when I get it done, I will stick it out under workflows documentation training. But right now, it's just under circulation committee. And if you go down here, it's under Checkout Wizard problem. So this is what we are going to start with today. So it starts out, of course, telling you how to log in as the supervisor. And when you actually get out to the properties, how to get to it is you're going to put your cursor over the checkout, the name of the Checkout Wizard over here in the Common Task group, and you're going to do a right click. And you get a little drop down menu, and you're going to select properties. When it opens up with 3 tabs. Now, normally, if you're just logged in with your regular login, there are some properties that you can change that way, but it's very limited. So if you are going to change a lot of properties, or some of the properties you cannot get to with, say, a regular CERC login, then you are going to have to use the supervisor login. So we are going to look at this behavior tab today is how we're going to start. And everything in this Checkout Wizard's property document is only the behavior tab. It's not the other tabs, which we will eventually get to. So, as you see, there's several sections here on this tab. And we're going to start up at the top, at the very first one, which is Hide Current User. And what this property does is, as you all know, the way that I think all our libraries have it set up right now is that if you go in and something is checked out to the first user of the day, after that, that user always stays as the current user over on the side, where in case the person comes back up to the desk while they're in there, you could just click on the current user. It goes ahead and populates all the information here. So. But you can hide this so that it does not show up. So if there's, for some reason, you have staff that has a lot of problems clicking on that when they shouldn't be clicking on it and checking things out to wrong people and that type of stuff, you can hide that button so that it is never there. So that is what this Hide Current User button, or this check does right here. So if I click on that and click OK, we'll have to close this wizard and open it back up. And as you see, there is no longer a current user over here on the side. So if, like I say, for some reason that causes problems with staff, or maybe just staff at a certain area in your library and you want to hide that, then that is something that you can actually hide. So, and the same way you can hide that is you can also hide the current item. So current item is right here. Sometimes that's handy because that may be something that you've looked at in another wizard and it carries on over to this wizard and it's there. But sometimes it could cause problems, once again, with staff clicks on that when they shouldn't be clicking on it. and check out the wrong item to the wrong patron. So go into properties, click hide the current item, click OK. I do have to close it and open it back up to see it. As you see, there is no current user and there's no current item over here. So. Beneath that, hide the current user, there is an option that says extend user's library privilege. And what this actually does is this controls whether or not a box pops up during circulation. So if somebody's card has expired and you want to be able, in circulation, to go ahead and have the option to renew it right there, something pops up for it, then you're going to want to keep that checked. So let me, that's the wrong one. Get out here. I'll find the right thing here. So, example in the handout that it gives you right here that if it's checked, you're going to get a pop-up box that says the privilege has expired, and then you have a chance going out and reviewing the user's record, updating the record. It says updating group privilege. At this time, we don't have group privilege, or just canceling it and canceling out of that. So this gives you a little explanation about what each one of these buttons right here do. The review user record, this is going to open up a pop-up box that displays the user's account information. It's a display only. It doesn't give you any information that can be edited, but you can look at things such as, is this your current address? Is this, you know, that type of information? So is this your telephone number? Update privilege will automatically just update it for 3 years from today. If it is a public library, or most of our libraries, if it's a school library, it defaults to 4 years for the students, so it would be 4 years from the day that it does that. If the box is unchecked, what is going to pop up is just a box saying that the privilege has expired. It does not give you the option of going ahead and extending the privilege right there. So. We do have a pay bill box over here that you can check or uncheck. What this does is this determines whether when the box first pops up when you put a person's information in there, whether or not the button displays for whether to pay a bill or not. So let me go ahead and select up here. So right here, where it says pay bills, you can have that button there, or you can, if you uncheck it, that button will not be there. So for some reason you don't want staff maybe to pay bills from this box that first pops up, then you can have that be there. So. And I do have a picture here of it, it's just not there. It just doesn't even have a spot for it there if it's unchecked. So. Proxy checkout with cancel hold. This is the way that we have it set up right now. So this is what you normally see if somebody comes in and says maybe that there's an item that they find on the shelf and they bring it up to you and you go to check it out and there's a hold on it for somebody in another library, or this even pops up if you allow other family members to check out a family member's hold. So say a husband has a hold on something and then the wife comes in with her card to pick it up. It's going to pop up and tell you that there is a hold, this item's being held for somebody else. What it does is it allows this button that says override checkout item and cancel hold to pop up on the display box. That's the way we have it right now, which of course allows you to say it's a husband that's coming in and for the wife's book, what it does, it allows you to check it out to the husband, and it allows you to cancel that hold so that she does not get another copy of that book that comes in. If you don't cancel the hold, what's going to happen is it checks out to the husband. Workflow says, hey, the wife never got it, so we're going to go ahead and send the next copy that's available to her. So that allows that button to appear there. Once again, if that is unchecked, there's going to be no override, checkout item and cancel hold button. So if for some reason you don't want to allow your staff to cancel a hold, during that procedure, then what will happen is the button will be there and allow them to do that. There's a document out on the RSA webpage about this whole block, override pop-up box, and I do have a link here, which just sends you right to the document. This is one of them that has been updated because it's on the new template right here, so it does give you information about it right here and what each one of the buttons do on it. So to where we were. We do have a check out reserve desk, but since we don't use reserve desk, that one doesn't matter. Automatically restart checkout on an item error. So if the staff, if this is turned on, what it happens is if the staff does not use the checkout to new user button to clear out a user, the cursor remains in the item ID box, and if the next user ID is in scanned, workflows will move the user ID up to the user box. So if the cursor happens to be in the, back here, the cursor happens to be in this box right here, if that is checked and turned on, then what happens is if a user ID is scanned, it's going to jump back up to the user ID box and not put the user ID in that box right there. If for some reason if the box is unchecked, what's going to happen is if the user ID is in the item ID box and then a user is scanned, then it's going to pop up and say item not found because it's not an item ID number. So, and then the staff has to click to close that box and then click the checkout to new user button to remove the previous user ID. So. Display circulation note. This determines if a circulation note will display during checkout. If this is checked, then when a circulation note is on an item, it's going to show up. So, and I know lots of libraries, or several libraries use circulation notes. I don't think Nick likes circulation. That's the notes you don't like on your self-check machines, the circulation.
I think this might be the one that's locking, like crashing workflows when we try to print a whole transit, or a transit slip, and a circ note pops up. Either circ note or item note, one of the two is crashing workflows for us every time.
No, Nick says one is either this note or
item note
crashes workflows for them all the time. So I do know that some libraries do put circulation notes though on their items, such as if there's multiple pieces to something to check for something. So if you're using workflows and you're finding that it's causing problems, you might want to uncheck that so that it doesn't pop up during a checkout, so you don't have the problem then. So cache items IDs. This is for libraries that use RFID. If this box is checked, then the staff can scan multiple IDs into the ID field at the same time. So, if you put, several things on your RFID pad, it would just do them all at one time. And they stay in there until you click on checkout item to the user button. If it's unchecked, only one item ID can be scanned in at a time. So, display alert for the last next to the last renewal. If you check this, then alert's going to pop up when there's only one remaining renewal for the item. So say you have, your library allows 3 renewals, and somebody has already, they're on their second renewal. You know, if you renew it in the checkout wizard, then it's going to pop up and tell you that they're only going to have 1 left. So if it's unchecked, then there is no alert, and that is one of those that it's not normally checked. So. Automatically renew items already checked out as seen. So if this is a radio button, you've got an option here of selecting. Only one of these radio buttons can be selected at a time. So there's 3 different ones right here. So you can decide which one that you want. Back to what it is. So if the automatically renew items already checked out as seen radio button is selected, the item will automatically renew and it will be counted as a seen renewal. An item already charged to the user message will not pop up because you do get those for this third one down here. If this second one is selected, then the item will automatically renew, and the renewal will count as an unseen renewal, and you don't get the item already charged to user message pop up. If the do not automatically renew items already checked out button is selected, then anytime somebody brings something up to the desk and you're using the checkout wizard to renew something, and sometimes people will just bring up a stack of items and you don't know if one of those items in there, they may not tell you, oh, I wanted to renew this. And you go to scan it, what it's going to do is it will pop up and say this item's already charged out to this user. Do you want to renew this item for this user? So that gives you that option there. So if you select any of the first 2, you're not going to get that pop-up box that tells you the item is already charged out to the user. So it's whatever works best for you at your library is whether you want that button to pop up or not. So. Sometimes we have sets that have multiple item IDs on them. So check out all items associated with the set. That would check everything out. Or if not, you would have to check out the parts of the set one by one. So user alerts. There are 4 boxes right here that deal with user alerts, and some of them, of course, we normally have all 3 of these selected right here. But if you're just using, say, this first one right here, and you decide you just want a display a user alert for a delinquent user, what's going to happen when somebody is blocked or they're barred or they're delinquent, what you're going to get is you're not going to get a pop-up like we see lots of times, but what you're going to get is you're going to get the override to be actually right on the checkout screen. So see right here, it says the user is blocked, you must use the override to continue. What it does is it grays out the item ID, so you can't go ahead and check anything out to them, and you have to do the override right here without a pop-up box to go on. So, it's another option. It keeps you maybe from having to do one step, an extra step of clicking, whatever, some of the buttons that are across the top. So. The But you can have display alert for multiple ones of these can actually be checked at the same time. So you could do the display alert for delinquent user and display user blocks in a separate window and have both of those done. What it will pop up doing then would be, it's going to give you this box that we're kind of familiar with right now, where you have to enter an override to go on. And then it just takes you to the screen to go on, so. Display user alerts. This one is actually for things such as they have holds, they have claims returned. These are not delinquent alerts. These are for those types of alerts. And then display alert for previous loan. This one will only work for libraries where their patrons are using a charge history. And what happens with this, if your library patrons do use a charge history, is that it will alert you if here's where it gets a little, it doesn't work quite the way it would be nice. It can work, but if you have a patron that has checked out a book and then they go to check out maybe the same book again, it's going to pop up and tell you that person has already had that book checked out, but only if it's on the same bibliographic record. So if they checked out the paperback and then the next time they brought up the hardback, it's not going to tell you that they previously had it because it's not going to be on the same bibliographic record. Or they checked out the paperback and the next time they check out the large print, it will not tell you. But it will pop up and alert you for something. Let's try to find something here that I've already checked out. Some of these things are. Okay. Pops up with a message right here saying, user has previously had a copy of this title on loan. And it gives you an option of checking it out. So this is me checking it out to me, displaying the charge history where you can go out and see the information about when they actually had it checked out. And you can just cancel it and not check it out to them, so. But I know not every library uses charge history, so I don't know how many people in here, their patrons, they have. I know you guys don't, right? You don't? So I'm going to a few, yeah.
Outreach.
Yeah.
They
Well,
specifically ask.
what'd you say here?
They specifically ask, we might turn it on, but we don't advertise that to you.
Nick says they don't advertise it. If they ask, they'll turn it on, but they don't advertise it. And Roxy said for like outreach, and I know lots of times it is used for outreach patrons. So, yeah. But I know some libraries do have, you know, patrons that turn it on. So it's just another option that you have there of reminding them maybe that they'd already read that. Do you really want another copy of this? So. I am going to skip this sound part because I still haven't figured out how to make this work. And I played around with it. Oh, here.
We have Janet Horton from Virginia Memorial Public Library say she personally uses the history. My kids would want a book multiple times, but can only ever tell me the picture on the cover.
Patrons are like that too.
Yeah.
I remember it had a horse and stuff, so. Charge printing. And this is where you can go in and set up your date due slip. So there's actually, like I said before, out on the RSA page under workflows documents, information on setting up your date due slips. And all you're going to do is just select this right here, click on date due slips. It gives you a spot where you can come in here, and I don't know, you know, a lot of libraries will just go in and set it up the first time and then never go in and change anything, but it does give you information on changing it. We do have the other document that's going to give you more specific information, but this is where you can go in and, you know, set up, such as maybe you want your library name across the top of it. And you can type that in right here. You get to select, you know, what you would actually like to see on your receipt over here. So, and this is where you can go in if you do currently have patron information on here that you might want to remove. You would just go in here. These just move back and forth like this, so you could remove it on and off right here. And this also is a spot down here at the very bottom where the footer is, that if you've got somebody that enjoys doing this and has the time to go in here, that you can also put things down here such as, you know, the book sales coming with the book sale date, summer reading starting, and you can have summer reading sign up here. Sometimes libraries will just put in maybe their telephone number, their web address, so that libraries can, or patrons get it into it right there. But this is where you go in and actually do that type of information. So, in printing charge slips, this is something that I cannot get to work the way it is supposed to, and I don't know if it's because it is a thermal printer or not, but the difference between a date due slip and a charge slip is that a charge slip is supposed to, but I never can get it to do this, it's supposed to give you a blank where the patron has to sign something. So if you wanted the patron to sign their name, but for some reason I cannot get that blank to up here. So if you wanted, you know, to me this might even work better, maybe like in paying the bills or something like that. But it gives you supposed to give you a spot where the patrons can sign their name, and I have not been able to get that to work. So I'm gonna get through all this today. So email checkout receipts. So this has to do with the buttons that are down here on the bottom of the screen, the email ones. So if your library, your patron's really not requesting this and you really don't use this, you can shut those buttons off so that they don't appear. I don't know how many libraries use these a lot or not, but if you remember, the difference between these two buttons is that when you check something out, currently there's nothing, I'm not in the process of checking anything out to this patron, but once you check something out to this patron, this one over here that says email current checkout receipts will be highlighted, and at that point, if you click on this, what this will do is it will send an email of just what was checked out at that session to the patron. If you have a patron that comes in and says, you know, I would like a list of everything that I have checked out, you could just click on the email all checkouts receipt, and it would send a list of everything they currently have checked out to their email account. What some of the options down here at the very bottom, though, is that you have an option also, you know, whether or not the buttons display. But if you do have the buttons display and you have somebody that you go to email to and they don't actually have an email address in their account, what is going to happen is you've got, once again, you've got 3 buttons. You can only choose one. You can't choose multiples down here, but of course one is don't prompt for an email address. If you do that, it's going to pop up and tell you that they don't have an email address. Prompt for an email address will open up and give you a blank where you can type in their email address. And prompt to open modify user will open modify user where you can type in their email address there, and then you can save it. The one above it will not save the email address, but the bottom one will actually save it into their account so that you have it for the next time. So I did get through all those. So if you have any questions about those, and if you do, I don't know if I can answer all of them, but if you have any questions about them, I just kind of wanted people to realize that there are things that you can go in and change. So, I mean, it's not just on this wizard, there's on other wizards where you can go in and make some selections that may make the software, you know, work better for you than what it does. Maybe, you know, help with some problems that maybe some of the staff's having and that type of stuff, so. Okay. Well, if there's no questions, then, tell them the next, see if there's any other business.
Is there any other business? All right, if not, our next meeting is May 10th. We're adjourned.